Welcome to Week in Horror.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
The podcast that deep dives all the films you love.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The week they dropped in horror history.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
With your horror hosts, JL.
When a shirtless Sam Elliott with no mustache takes out an alligator with an oar, that's the kind of movie I'm looking for.
Eugene.
And we're just casually just like, yeah, so that's probably the best way to go, light someone on fire with that's the lead.
Alex.
It would not be an original lineup if I didn't have fucking technical difficulty.
Johnny O.
Now, it's not an Amityville, or wherever, it's Amityville.
And Aaron.
They got manure to work with and nothing grew from it.
News, trailers, trivia, special guests, and more.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Live show every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central at youtube.com/weekinhorror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
And wherever you listen to podcasts.
One by one, we will take you.
Week in Horror. Stay scared.
Welcome, horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that's knee-deep in the dead. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember, we do this live every Wednesday right here on YouTube. Come hang out and see all the stuff our editor doesn't want you to see. This week, we're covering select horror films released February 12th through February 18th. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Aaron, and with me right now is JL, and hopefully later, Eugene.
Yes, fingers crossed. Eugene was making it home from a gig, and he just let us know that that was the delay there, as we didn't want to jump without him, and he just let us know that he's on his way. I hope the weather's okay down there. I don't want him to rush because I want him to be safe, but we were kind of holding like, is he going to be? Yeah, was he going to be here at the time? But yeah, he's on the way, so hopefully he'll be here shortly. So how you doing,
weather
man?
Puts a, I'll say weather puts an ass in Texas.
Yes.
I'm doing all right.
As a former resident of 30 years, I can attest to that. I actually can.
I have been through Texas 4 times. 3 of them were dreary and miserable. Just not pleasant at all because it was just on the verge of cold, but not quite cold. First time I went through, though, I started out in North Carolina. I had the route up through Tennessee, like the northern route to Tennessee, because of a landslide blocking the interstate. Back down, we're like, it's going to get warmer once we get down towards Texas. We had a cold front follow us all the way through to New Mexico. I'm like, Jesus, I'm like, Texas is in the South. What the hell, man?
Brutal. All right. So, yeah, hopefully Eugene will be with us here shortly as he's making his way home from a gig because, we work, in the industry. So occasionally, you get on set and you can get, we're talking delays. You never know how long it could last. Sometimes they go the full distance. Sometimes they go into golden time, which is like where the real money is. But
well, it's grueling and it can be grueling and psychotic before you even get in your car to go home. So
that's true. That is true. All right. Well, how is everybody in the live chat doing? It's good to see everyone. Thank you all so very, very much for being here. I'm just going to pop up the Patreon banner, see all the amazing individuals who help us to make this show possible. See a bunch of people in the live chat. Let's say hi to them real quick before we get started. We have one thing we got to do before we got to jump into tonight's selections. Let's see. I saw there were some comments earlier, but I missed them because they were in here a little too early. But I see Casey Cooper's there. Good to see you, Casey Cooper. Says, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? We are there now. Good to see you, Casey. Thanks for being here. Travis Brown as well, one of our amazing patrons, says, good evening with the cold and wet rain we are having, which is perfect for Dead Snow too. It absolutely is. We got some stuff to say. Excellent times. I see Aaron keeping the chat happy. Angel Rivera's here. Good to see you, Angel. Says, good evening, everybody. Aaron Reese every day. Good to see you. And let me see here. Denova's here. Good to see you, Denova. Thanks so much for being here, bud. One of our big supporters. Hope you're doing well. And I see Cindy Johnson as well. Good evening. And Sarcasm says, good evening. Welcome to my nightmare. Welcome to my nightmare. Absolutely, Sarcasm. Thanks so much for being here. Frayed Edges is in the house. Good to see you, Frayed. Says, I'm going to be lurking today, going for a drive. We'll definitely be safe while you're listening. We appreciate you having us on. Thank you, bud. It's always awesome to have you. Joshua Lee's in the house. Says, hey, everyone. Good to see Joshua Lee, another one of our amazing supporters. Jay Verswell says, you get a tech issue, you get a tech issue. Everybody gets tech issues. Well, fortunately, it wasn't really a tech. Well, it's kind of a tech issue. We had a host that wasn't here yet, and he's still got to get set up. So, but yeah, tech issues, they happen. We're doing it live, so it happens. Oh, let me see. I can't have a stream without tech issues. This is true. Sally Skellington is here. Says Irish Demon is here in spirit. Get it? Yes, he absolutely was tinkering with our gear and our host availability. Rodinola's name is here. So Weekend Horror saves me from another chilly live stream. We're proud to do it, to give you the alternative. Thank you very much, Rodin. We do appreciate you being here, bud. Gabba gabba to you. And I see Brian Powell is here. Good to see you, Brian Powell. And Tony Regime, good to see you. Thank you, Sally, for the obligatory ghost. We do appreciate it. And I see that Brian Powell says, I feel like death warmed over. Well, I hope you're okay. Hope you're feeling better soon. And thank you so much for having us on while you're recuperating. We do appreciate it, bud. And unfortunately, Joshua Lee, no Johnny. Johnny is not on the stream tonight. He wasn't interested in the movies we were talking about. No, he's really, really important. He's got other shit to do. No, I'm just fucking with you there. Now he's just being Johnny, that's what it is.
He's got shit to do, but I don't know about being important.
Yeah, I couldn't even get through with it with a straight face. I really couldn't. Oh, let me see here. Christo Kieran is here. Good to see you, Christo. Says, hey, JL. Hey, Aaron. Howdy, y'all. Good to see you, bud. Thanks for being here. Joshua Lee says, got my stitches out today. So, yes, I'm pretty much bedbound. Well, I hope you're feeling better soon, Joshua Lee. And I hope, Brian Powell, I hope you're feeling better as well very, very soon. It's good to see everybody. So, that's right. It is kind of like gross out right now. My dogs. Oh, Cindy Sue. Good to see you, Cindy Sue. Thank you so much for being here as well, hon. We do appreciate it. It is gross. My dogs kept wanting to go outside. That's why I wasn't like, here. I got everything prepped because I had to deal with them. So all of a sudden they wanted to go crazy, but it is gross outside. And I don't need gross dogs running around the house while I'm about to go live,
Yeah, it's the sky's the color of like, what do you call it? Gray water right now. Just that nasty funk out there. It's like, I'd rather just shut the windows and hide in the dark.
Brian Powell says, air show practice is why I feel like that. Oh, I totally get that. Ronan Ellis name says, no, Johnny, are the movies that bad? Actually, they're not. We have some good ones that we're going to talk about tonight. I promise. No turd polishing tonight. I can guarantee you that. So, and the first thing we're going to do tonight is we have to do the Bloodbath Debate coin toss. The Bloodbath Debate coin toss for this month. Now, this Bloodbath debate is between our editor and producer, Angela, and, of course, Alex. Alex has a debate this month. So Alex will be returning to take on Angela as Angela defends her title. And the two that they're going up against is going to be, I had to go kind of obscure on this. So it's Ben Willis, the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Matthew, the hook-handed psycho from Scream Bloody Murder back in 1973. So we have two hook-handed psychos.
Triple fight? I'm sorry. What?
So the choices will be I Know What You Did Last Summer versus Scream Bloody Murder, the Ben Willis, the fisherman, versus Matthew, the hook-handed psycho. And since Angela is not here, I'm going to be flipping the coin as her proxy because she is the champion. So she gets to call. So I will call in the air for her, and then she will get her choice. Now I'm going to let her make the choice. She'll get to choose, and Alex will have to pick up the other for the defense. So here we go. Flip the coin. Oh, I didn't call it, did I?
Nope.
I didn't call it. Yeah, whoops. Okay.
Oh, here, you want me to call it? I'll call it so we'll have a separate person.
You want to call it?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Tails never fails. And tails.
And it's heads.
Oh, I don't have luck with that one. That one's cursed. Where the fuck is Alex?
All right, so Alex won that one. So Alex wins the coin toss, and Alex will choose which of the two he wants to represent, and Angela will pick up the other and defend her title against Alex. See if Alex can take the title away and unseat her. That's true.
Yeah, unseat.
Talking tonight. It's probably the weather. Oh, let me see.
Or your brain.
Or my brain. It could be my brain. You never know. Travis Brown says, who did Angela pick in the last bloodbath? In the last bloodbath debate, Angela picked
the governor.
She took the governor against Eugene, who took Negan. And so the governor won that.
That was a serious debate. Like, that one is definitely worth hearing just for hearing the judges discuss and debate it. I mean, we ran through like an entire ensiegement of a town before we made a decision.
We had to go through so many scenarios in order to figure out, because it was that argument was so close and so tight. And, there's so many factors involved. And plus the strength of the strength of Eugene and Angela's arguments. It was tough to decide, but we eventually got there. That was one of the longest bloodbaths we've had because we took so much deliberation on the judges' parts. But it should be good. It'd be good to see Alex back. Alex giving a good defense, or Alex giving a good attempt to try and dethrone Angela as the bloodbath debate champion, because he hasn't been on in a minute because he's been busy moving. So he is currently moving to a bigger house for the litter of children that he has now. So. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Travis, you did fall asleep, but it was all good. But Angela won that one, so she's going to carry on, see if she can maintain her title. Good stuff.
All right, so I guess we're going to kick it off here.
Yeah, I guess we'll get started, and hopefully Eugene will be along shortly. We should have plenty of time. Yeah, we should have We should have enough time. Absolutely. All right.
All right. Kick it over to you, JL.
Yep, let's jump right into it. So, let me get that prepped. Awesome. The first movie that we are going to talk about tonight released February 12th, 2014, and it is Dead Snow 2, Red vs. Dead. What a fucking great title.
Oh, God. Amazing.
This title was amazing. Let's check out this trailer.
Morten Hikkerud. Han rømte fra sykehuset I går og drepte en politimann ved å slenge en Mercedes-stjerne I trynet på han.
Skjøtte den Mercedes-stjerne? Is this the zombie squad?
That is a 10-4, Martin, and we will be heading your way shortly. Listen, Martin, these are not your classic textbook zombies, just hungering to feast on the flesh of man. No, these are most likely cursed zombies, awakened to reclaim something that was stolen from them, or to complete a task given to them.
The sick.
Okay, girls. Looks like we're going to Norway. First zombie squad kill.
Jeez.
What did you find out? What do the creatures want?
Revenge.
We have a tank, I see.
Your arm, your power is the only thing that can take down Herzog at this point.
What do? We create an army of our own.
Fuck yeah.
Easier if you could buy weapons here.
I know. What the fuck's the matter with this country?
Oh, so good. So good. Oh, yes. Dead Snow 2, Red versus Dead. I'm still trying not to laugh because I love that stunt where he throws him through the roof and he comes back down the stairwell. It was just fantastic. Written and directed by Tommy Wirkola and based on Dead Snow by Tommy Wirkola and starring Vingerhole, Origin Gamst, Martin Starr, Ingrid Haas, Jocelyn de Boer, Stig Freud Henriksen, and Christopher Joner. Essentially, this is the sequel to Tommy Wirkola's Dead Snow, where a group of zombie Nazis are discovered up in the mountains. And after the events of the first film, which are beautifully summarized in the second film, these zombies come down and decide to finish their mission, the mission that they were trying to accomplish when they were first, rendered, undead. And they decide to finish it. And in order to stop them, the lone survivor from the first film enlists the help of a group of, or the undead Russians who died trying to stop them previously. So it turns into a massive undead grudge match, which is just fucking amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
As Denova states, this was a beautiful symphony of horror. It absolutely was.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's got. I don't think you ever get that sensibility in this country. You got that sensibility. It's really similar to Shaun of the Dead, where it's got the light comedy to it, so that this horrific stuff occurs, but it's still just like, oh, that's so funny, instead of the miserable grimness that we've got here. But yeah, it's like you're talking about, because you told me you knew more about this than I did, is the fact that it, it involves a kind of an homage or love letter to Sam Raimi. And as soon as I saw that chainsaw in the flashback, I'm like, we're going there, huh? And then the damn arm gets reattached, and I'm like, oh, we're going Army of Darkness as well. Where's this gonna go?
I thought it was. Yes, definitely. Both films are absolutely. There's a little bit of meta there. And hey, Vera Lucia Campos, good to see you, Vera. Thanks so much for being here. But yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful love letter, from Tommy Wirkola and Norway to the works of Sam Raimi. And in fact, there's a little bit of meta in the first film, in the first Dead Snow, which I watched. I watched Dead Snow before, which is so I'd have the context. And then there's some beautiful meta there where they actually comment on how one of the characters in the first film, one of the guys who dies, is a big horror film buff. And so he comments that Evil Dead 2 was really just Evil Dead 1, but with a bigger budget. And so they just kind of redid it. And so there's you can tell that Tom Wirkola is very, very aware. He's a great love for the horror genre and a great love. Sam Raimi was a huge inspiration to him. And yes, even went so far as to having the main character, the survivor, the guy who survives, lop off his arm with a chainsaw because he gets bit. And then when he gets picked up and by the police, at the end of the first film, he wakes up in the hospital, and then the arm they found was the arm of the zombie leader in who he was fighting, because his arm managed to get torn off. They end up attaching the zombie leader's arm to him, which gives him zombie powers to resurrect them and make them and do all kinds of wacky shit, which is I absolutely adored. I did want to watch them both. I did. I was looking forward to it because I love Tommy Wirkola. Tommy Wirkola has directed a number of films. While Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters is kind of a flop, I agree, wasn't a very good movie. The script wasn't all that great. I will say that What Happened to Monday and, of course, The Trip and Violent Night, all his works were fucking phenomenal. So he's a fantastic director. You can see his love for it, and it's all in there from the dialogue to the cinematography. And he's willing to go so far as to get a fucking tank. Now, it wasn't an original German tank. It was actually made up to look like the German tank because the tank that was authentic was not available. So they actually had to get one that was similar and then do it up to kind of make it look like it was a legitimate one. But you can tell that a movie like this is an absolute blast. And you can tell when you get to the chance to make big movies like this, huge movies, the budget on this to get tanks like that, to get massive, combat scenes with like 50 people on either side just going to town, and all of the effects and the gore effects are absolutely amazing. I can imagine this thing was an absolute blast to film.
Yeah, because they're opening it up. I haven't seen the original. I'm going to watch soon because I thought it was, or they didn't realize it was going to be a horror comedy. I've glanced past it. I don't know how many times, and I thought it was just one of the really crappy ones that they made during the zombie splurge from The Walking Dead. But they've expanded from a fairly small cast in a small area to this entire town, and at the end they just wreck this damn place between them and the house and the tank rolling through and everything else. They tear this place to hell, and the cops involved. I don't blame the cops. If I walked into the middle of two zombie armies fighting, I'd lean back and be like, let's just see what's happening here. We'll take on whoever's left when there's a winner.
Should we help them? Who? The rotting guys in the Nazi outfits or the rotting guys in the Russian outfits? And I love that little attention to detail there, how the Nazis, the zombie Nazis, they still have their mentality, still have that kind of attitude of that Third Reich attitude of superiority and, how they present themselves. And then the Russians, who are decidedly a bit more uncouth in that respect, a little bit more, wildly on the battlefield, bring that in. I knew when the big Russian dude was resurrected, I was like, that's going to be a badass fight. So,
well, and it goes to the backstory too, because the first thing you notice is the Russians are not in uniforms, and there's a good reason for that. I mean, it's backstory. They'd been captured, so they're not. The zombie Nazis are fighting like military units, basically. The Russians are just all in, ragtag, beat the hell out of them as hard as you can.
This one was a lot of fun. That's the beauty of this one. Both the first one and the second. The second one was even more fun. Now, that was the big problem, because Tommy Vercola is a fantastic director and very, very talented, but his career saw a bit of a hiccup. This film came after Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And that was problematic. And the problem was that this movie didn't really perform the way I thought it would have performed. Any horror fanatic is going to love this one. Aaron, this is the first time Aaron ever saw it. I know you fell in love with it. And so, but
amazing.
Unfortunately,
it's amazing.
And so, unfortunately, while Dead Snow was his third film, and Dead Snow, did amazingly, and they catapulted him into doing big budget productions, which is why he got Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters. The problem was that film not great, and unfortunately, he got his kind of big break to do a big budget movie with Gemma Arterton and Jeremy Renner, and it was a big action piece, and then it just didn't go anywhere. It was a damn shame, and then he quickly followed it up with Dead Snow 2, which underperformed, unfortunately, and is the whole reason why his career kind of took a little bit of a dip, and he's kind of had to rebuild himself. But he fortunately has, with, of course, What Happened to Monday for Netflix, and then, of course, The Trip, which he filmed back in Norway, and then, of course, Violent Night, which I think we can agree is fucking amazing, and is already greenlit for a sequel on that one. So I wish this one had performed a little bit better than it did. I just don't think that, the kind of commercial reception was after Witch Hunters. People were kind of like, not really. We're not giving him not giving him what he's due. But this film is fucking amazing. But it just goes to show, oftentimes politics or trying to get your opportunity, your breakthrough opportunity, if you don't really gauge your opportunity well, he probably should have turned it down and waited for something else and done Dead Snow 2 instead and followed up immediately instead of going for the big one. But hey, the money from Hansel and Gretel may have helped make Dead Snow 2, considering the budget was so much larger than the first film.
Well, that's just the thing with movies like this too, though, is I don't think they ever, or I should say they rarely make a box office boom, because you can read them and tell that they're going to become a cult smash. They're really something that everybody thinks direct-to-video is always a bad thing. It's not necessarily. I mean, Shudder Video, the number of amazing horror exclusives they have that are just on them, that go direct to them, shows that with horror, it's not necessarily always about the box office. If you are smart and you bet on what used to be the DVD sales in, the Blu-ray sales in, which still exists, but a lot of it's the streaming sales in, the contracts and stuff. If you start to think more about that, you're probably better off, and evaluating on that route with this kind of movie, because it's something that spreads slowly, but it digs deep till it's everybody. There are big movies out there that everybody talks about and they recommend. They're like, oh yeah, you got to see this. It's great. It's a recommendation. Then there's movies like this where you see it, and then every damn body that is in the horror movies, you're like, you haven't seen this? You have to see this. You're coming over to my house to watch this, and it spreads better that way. I mean, it has a more of a lasting ability. The whole, well, you should see it, dies off after one or two people. But these people up essentially virally and attach them on, and they love it. They stick with it. So I don't think the box office failure is not necessarily a failure, especially movies like this. But it did have a few issues with that you see with sequels. A lot of it is they got the budget and they felt obliged to spend it. So the battle scene's great, but there are pieces here and there that could get trimmed out. And there's some other stuff throughout the movie. They could probably trim it a little bit, or they could have, developed a little more to fill that space. But it's maybe 10, 15 minutes tops that could have gone, like at the very utmost. But it's just little things here and there that you really want. Like, once you see the zombie Russian like knock a hole in a shed with a Nazi, you completely forget about it. You're like, all right, I'm down again. Let's do this. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I mean, and he was smart enough to know that with Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, it spread in a cult-like manner, but it had trouble breaking the surface somewhat as far as wider popularity went. So it really was the original, damn near, I won't say identically, but the major plot points were the same, and it modified stuff here and there. This one, they're smart enough to expand it out, deepen it, give some more options, and make it a little more exciting movie. So it's a true sequel. They realize that people now are going to demand that. It's very rare that somebody wants to see a movie remade as a sequel once they've, made their judgment on the original one. So, yeah, I think I would put this in the win category for him for sure.
Absolutely. Definitely. Now, of course, a couple of people have expressed in the live chat, having watched this one, see, Sarcasm said, and of course, the obligatory German poop jokes, and some people were kind of put off by the outhouse jokes. So this is really, really interesting, and something I think is a cultural thing. Now,
obviously,
poop jokes are like poop humor. Here in the States, we have poop humor. We do that, but it's extremely obligatory. It's like we make the poop joke and then we move on to the poop joke. But there's something to be said for poop jokes that are subtle and a part of the narrative, that are just kind of there as though this is a normal thing that happens. You're going to laugh at it because it's a poop joke, but we're not treating it like a joke. We're treating it like a legitimate thing. This is just a part of the aesthetic, which is weird, which kind of like, I think could be a little bit off-putting, but I think also adds that kind of like that cultural kind of sense to it, is like, oh yeah, which I think Tommy Ricola was brilliant about putting that in there. His awareness, or his cultural awareness of his European cultural awareness, plays a huge role in the writing of these things, because the way people interact with one another and how they approach various situations is hilarious. And I think is decidedly un-American, the way they would react to stuff. So I love the way he handled that. The outhouse stuff in the first movie, which was, you haven't seen the first one yet, have you?
No, not yet.
Okay, because there's an outhouse joke in the first one, which I think you will go like, oh. But in obviously the second one, there was some stuff in there. And of course, I did see that there was some people there. Yeah, poop occurs. Yes, everyone poops. Everyone poops. That's what it is. But
I think it's a leftover thing from the fact that we had so much of a Protestant society when we first started, that it's one of those things that we don't talk about that. Like, we've opened up more about sex because sex is enjoyable and stuff, but like pooping, most of the stuff that occurs is rather unpleasant. So we've still stuck with the, like, if you're going to tell the joke, move on, and we're not going to talk about this again. Whereas elsewhere, it's not that bad. Like in Japan, some of the toilet humor they have, like, little kids are telling shit jokes without saying the word shit. I'm like, oh my God. And the parents are like, yeah, that's so funny. I remember that from when I was a kid. It's like, all right, okay, I guess we're doing that here.
Anna's here. Good to see Anna, one of our big supporters. Thanks so much, Anna, for hanging out with us. Sir Captain says, Shaun the Dead had much better one-liners, but Snow had better physical comedy. It absolutely did. The shit with the kid, when the kid like unwraps it, like frees him because he's locked up. He's in custody in the hospital at the beginning, and this kid frees him and then winds up going out the window, and it's splatter effective. It's absolutely hilarious. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but a lot of people had an issue with the end of this one, and that's the whole big thing. The end of this movie was supposed to open up the potential for a third film for the third movie, and hopefully I'm looking forward to it, if we happen to get one. But the end of that was kind of gruesome because our hero, who has gone through the gamut of bringing up these zombies and winning this war and defeating Herzog and going through all this nonsense and losing most of his friends, and the zombie squad is there. Martin is fucking amazing. I absolutely adore Martin Starr. I love him in everything he does. Because if people remember Martin Starr from, there's probably a bunch of these remember him. Like, he was in Spider-Man films. He was Peter Parker's teacher in the recent MCU films, but he's been in a ton of shit. And he's a comedian and actor. And I think one of the a funny role that I saw him in for was The Last Lovecraft. It was good to see him in that one. But in this one, the hero goes through all this stuff, and at the very, very end goes and resurrects his girlfriend, his dead girlfriend from the first movie. Resurrects her, and then proceeds to, which we're seeing to go, she's been dead for a minute.
This is nasty, really nasty.
And then, of course, the credits, the added credits scene, which indicates it's supposed to be a Dead Snow 3, which rumor has it was going to feature zombie Hitler, because Herzog was still alive. And so I thought, how that was going to go. Is he Pat the Batman fan? Good to see you. Says most people don't talk about shit; they just talk shit. This is true. We talk shit. We don't talk about shit. Just to go and bone his zombie girlfriend. Absolutely. So we went into the whole. It went into the necrophilia stage, which was obviously grotesque, because she really looked grotesque. She was.
Oh yeah. He didn't bring her. Not like he restored her being necromancy to full vitality. She comes out of there and pretty much the state she started out in.
Oh, it's so rough. So rough. Sarcasm says necrophilia means never having to say you're sorry. Oh. Pat the Batman fan says Martin Starr was great in Freaks and Geeks. He's also in Stallone's new Tulsa King show, which is great. Yep. He's getting a lot of work. He's a fantastic actor. And so he was a lot of fun in this one, playing the obligatory nerd who's kind of like out of his element, but who kicks ass. But this was a lot of fun, and that kind of leads up to the question that I want to ask the audience. A film like this, obviously, kind of a diamond in the rough. It's a Norwegian film. It was filmed in Norwegian and English at the exact same time, and I saw the dub, which was fantastic. It was just wonderfully done. And so, a film like this is kind of rare in that respect. And because it kind of hit that Tommy Vercola's career took, we may or may not get the sequel. But that's what I want to ask the audience. Given how this one ended, Herzog is still alive. He still has his power. The zombie squad has been established. Do we want a Dead Snow 3? Given, Dead Snow 1 was so great. Dead Snow, true. That is love, Vera Lucia. That is absolutely love. So do we want a Dead Snow 3? Yes or no? No, it's good where it ended. Tommy Vercola can go on and do other stuff. He's already got a sequel greenlit for Violent Night with David Harbour, which is going to further explore that mythology. But could we get a Dead Snow 3 with zombie Hitler? Could we see that? I want to know what the audience thinks. Yes or no? Let us know in the live chat, or of course in the comments below, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Is it a yes or a no to Dead Snow 3? Should Tommy Vercola get working on that ASAP? And I say yes. Yes, we need zombie Hitler. We need zombie Hitler versus zombie Patton. I don't know.
Oh yeah. God, yes, we do. And Undead General Patton, just all he does is walk up to people and call them a pussy, because that's what General Patton's general attitude was. Would be an amazing, amazing thing. You would have to handle it right, subtly.
And we could get zombie Ava Brown. And we could get zombie. There's so many zombies we could get.
Oh, God.
So many we can bring up. There's so many jokes to be made there. It reminds me, because I haven't talked a lot about it, but I really hope one day, once we start getting once we get these productions out of the way in 2023 for Week in Horror, the stuff that we're working on right now, I really hope one day to make my Romans versus Zombies horror. It's basically like Shaun of the Dead meets Passion of the Christ, which I think would be, you could just roll it in your head. That's gonna be a fucking amazing movie if we get the chance to make it.
You could. There are so many reenactors too that would be down for that, because reactors are generally in the same class as horror nerds. So recruiting for that army, they would bring their own armor.
Absolutely. Got a lot of love saying a bunch of yes. Let me see. Genova 28 says, hell yeah, 100%. Charlie Welch says, might have my brains. Joshua Lee says, sure, let's do Zombie Hitler. Absolutely, let's do Zombie Hitler. Tony Regime says, I knew a guy who was in, oh, no. I told him he was I knew a guy who was in necrophilia, bestiality, and sadomasochism. I told him he was flogging a dead horse. Keith Cooper says, zombie Hitler and zombie girlfriend revenge. It's zombie Churchill. Yes, zombie Stalin. Casey Cooper. Zombie Reagan. Thank you. Thor Rasmussen is here. So drop a like in the bot. Thank you so much, Thor. We do appreciate that. Thanks for popping by, hanging out. Oh, this is going to be good stuff. But yeah, definitely let us know what you think down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Yes or no to Tommy Vercola's Dead Snow 3. We got to get on that. He's got to get on that. Well, unfortunately, Eugene is not with us yet, but hopefully he will be here soon. I hope he's being safe. But we will move on. Aaron, pick up this bad boy.
All right. Yeah. From Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2008, it's The Caretaker. One of like 20 movies named The Caretaker.
Yes, I know. It was a very common title.
I know all about the secrets buried up here. I can tell you all about it, darling.
It's Halloween. It's night. There are teenage boys, and they do stupid things.
No thanks. I'm not cold at all.
I just want you to be careful.
It's a dance, Dad. Not an orgy. Lighten up. Honestly, where are we going? So who lived here?
The Caretaker.
His name?
The band can only afford a drummer and a bassist. You know, the budget shot to hell.
Adam started getting jealous. He wouldn't let anyone look into the house at his bride.
He loved her so much that he went mad.
Take a picture with me in the fake dead body.
If I gave you a shovel, you could dig anywhere around this property. I bet you'd turn up a whole lot of bones. And I ain't talking chicken either.
He's here.
He's inside the house.
Listen to me, sweet cheeks. I have been planning this for a very long time.
Do you see the limo? Huh? Do you see the limo? He freaking left us! Hello out there. Somebody help me!
Hey, did you show him the chain?
Isn't funny.
Even more famous dating a serial killer than a student.
And that was pretty much it right there, from what I understand.
That's pretty much the film. That's pretty much all you need to watch in this one. You go ahead and break it down. So.
I don't know what I can break down because I couldn't get a hold of the thing. I just had to go through clips and everything else. Well, I guess do a read off of the description. Group of boyfriends think that taking their girlfriends to a haunted house is all in good fun, but it turns out that the urban legend about the place is very real. So, I mean, it's like, this is a trope. But it's directed by Bryce Olsen, written by Jackie Olsen, starring Kira Barastro, James Emekis, Jennifer Freeman, Andrew St. John, Diego J. Torres, Jennifer Tilly, and Judd Nelson. And they spent most of the casting budget, from what I can tell, on those last two.
Don't forget Jonathan Breck as the limo driver. Because Jonathan Breck's the creeper.
Oh, yeah.
From Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, I always thought he looked like a stranger wearing Jean-Claude Van Damme's skin, but that's just me.
This is so true. He actually does. Oh, that's freaky. And I've met the man, so I was kind of like, now I'm thinking about it, I was like, oh shit, he does. He really does. So yeah, so Sarcasm said this version of the Caretaker was this film was so bad it's been scrubbed from the internet. That it's that bad, and he is not lying. So this is actually really, really funny. And yeah, Pat the Batman fan says, looks like they pulled out Horror Movie Trailer Cliche Guide Volume 7 out for that one. They absolutely did. So this particular movie was very, very difficult to find. And here's what's wild is I actually did find this film. I found it online and watched it online. But the fucking website that I saw it on was a very sketchy website. Don't worry, my computer system is safe. Everything is good. I have nothing. I didn't pick up any bugs or anything, but it was a very sketchy overseas website that had a lot of prawn on it. But it also had movies. But predominantly it was prawn. So I found
a red room.
Yeah, maybe. So I don't think I was on the dark web. So anyway, I watched the movie there, and it had this terrible. I think it had a dub running over it. Now you could still hear the English, but the dub was running over the English, and it was either like Czechoslovakian, or it was either Czech, or it was Uzbekistani. I'm not sure. I don't speak any of those. So I had to kind of like listen really carefully to hear what was going on. It turns out I didn't need to, because everything in the trailer is everything that you see. But I tried to share that link so that Aaron could watch it, the others could watch it, and all of a sudden it wouldn't show anymore. So like I found a link, it worked, I watched it, and now the link is dead, and now we can't watch it at all. So I think I'm the only one who actually got to see this thing. And it's the fucked up thing about this. It is bare bones nonsense. This is the one thing I want to talk about. There's nothing important about the movie in and of itself. The movie itself is bare bones nonsense. It's literally just formulaic, by the number, paint by numbers horror, and you add in a couple of big stars in this. So they had 3 named actors who were in B horror. You got Judd Nelson, you got Jennifer Tilly, and then you've got Jonathan Breck. Jennifer Tilly has the most screen time out of the 3 of them, because Judd Nelson is in it for literally, I think, like less than 5 minutes of screen time. And then you've got Jonathan Breck, who was in there very, very, probably even less than that. Jennifer Tilly has most of it. Yeah, give my PC a penicillin shot. It probably does need one, but no, I got it all cleared up. I'm safe. But yeah, this is essentially like one of those terrible films that comes along that just gets done. Now, likely done for either tax purposes. The actors who are involved, they got a paycheck. It's pretty much just like one of those movies you do as you're kind of like building your career, because no one in this has a name. It's just a movie that was made. And of course, a terrible twist that you see coming about halfway through, where Judd Nelson is the villain at the end. I'm giving you that spoiler so that you don't have to go watch this movie yourself. Her dad was like the lead girl's dad was the killer the whole time. That was the whole point. And Jennifer Tilly was in on it as well. She winds up getting killed and betrayed. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. The big thing about this, and I kind of want to digress on this one, is that this is one of those movies that is representative of what I like to call the Hollywood dump zone. And the Hollywood dump zone exists for every single genre that's out there. So you've got like for any kind of like adventure movies that will release, like adventures or comedies that will release straight to specific channels that host those types of movies. So like comedy movies are made solely for Comedy Central, other channels. You've got like your romantic comedies or your dramas or like that are made for like the Lifetime channel or fucking Hallmark channel. And then of course your horror movies that literally get dumped on some obscure channel, then either or dump straight to DVD and then go right to the bargain bin because there's no money put in to market it whatsoever. It's ostensibly what this thing is. And the reason these things exist, it's kind of both vital and kind of obnoxious, because they're vital for the industry, because they allow for studios to have tax write-offs on scripts that they've purchased, and they're trying to get out and they can write those things off. But those tax write-offs give them the room to do the other films that we all enjoy and the ones we're looking forward to, unless, of course, you're The Asylum. But they also are really, really obnoxious because it's a waste of time. It doesn't further anything, and all it does is kind of drag things down. And, of course, the people involved have it on their resumes. So it kind of is a double-edged sword dealing with these, but this is kind of one of those ones that represents a vital part of the industry, because movies like this help to keep studios alive.
Well, and when you trace this movie backwards and movies like it, where you've got 2 actors that have not heavy salaries, they're B-movie, they're not necessarily B-rated talent, but they're B-movie actors, and you go back and they put all the money into them, very little into the other actors, and you're like, well, you could do a more balanced cast and have a better movie. But I think they do that in anticipation of the fact that they knew when they sat down to cast this that they had an absolutely garbage script, and they were going to have to take and throw in a couple of people up front just as a lure to get that rental out the door or that purchase, probably like the purchases are, this thing's going to go bargain bin fairly fast. But, you know, when it's new, I don't think you're going to see a lot of purchases. Most of it's going to be rental or streaming. They use those names to get them out there. And then you can tell just by the trailer, the lighting's bad. Dark. People don't realize how much talent it takes to do darkness, because lighting in bright daylight, whether you're using sunlight or you're simulating it, is relatively easy. You've got some diffusion that you sometimes need. Sometimes you reflect it, balance it, things like that, but you're just getting light moving around. With darkness, you have to put just enough light in just the right places so people can see what's going on, but not too much, because most time you don't want to see the monster right away. Whereas this one, they just darkened the hell out of it and ran with it. So it tells me that across the board, there's no passion in the project. People just showed up to get it done, get the paycheck, go out. And that's because the producers bought a script that was cheap and ran from there to get the tax write-off or get the rental fees or whatever it might be. I mean, just straight down the line, nobody cared.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a film with ulterior motives. And Angel Rivera brings up sci-fi. Sci-fi does that a lot, that they will green light really, really cheesy, very, very simple, shoddily produced films solely in order to, like, you know, get from point A to point B. Because, you know, sometimes getting the movie done or having the big budget movie done, you need to be able to offset the costs of those, especially when you're hiring specific actors or you've got, you know, particular names attached to it, unless they're willing to work for cheap. Like Danny Trejo will be in anything and he doesn't care. He just wants to work. So long as you pay him, he'll be in your movie. He's accessible. So, and Casey Cooper says, I recall you saying that at the start that they were all good movies. I think you may have fibbed. I didn't say all good. I said there'd be no turd polishing.
This one doesn't get a paint job. This one just gets flushed.
And I will say this. I will say at least this. I will, Jennifer Tilly, Judd Nelson, and of course, Jonathan Breck. They all, I mean, everyone is at least professional. You can tell when actors show up and they're bored and they have nothing to do. And a lot of the no-name actors that are in this, you kind of get that sense, which just further takes you out of it. The poor cinematography, the very amateur cinematography in this, because there is nothing really interesting done camera-wise, and the director of photography wasn't really focused. I'm pretty sure they had one. But when you look at it, everything is very amateurishly shot. It's literally just your basics, your wide shot, your close-ups, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing intriguing done from a narrative perspective, so there's no investment from the camera in and of itself. And then, of course, the actors who have no names, they're just there for the paycheck in order to put something on their resume. So it's resume padding and it's money in order to pay the bills. So none of them are invested at all. But therein lies the difference, because at least Jennifer Tilly and Judd Nelson and Jonathan Breck, who we have seen put in performances before, who have talent. Jennifer Tilly is a very talented actress. I've seen her in many things. Well, she's gone cheesy kind of with the whole, with the Chucky series, with both her roles in those films and, of course, in the currently ongoing sci-fi film or sci-fi series. She can do cheesy and goofy, and she plays to the kind of like the visual thing. Like she's kind of like the ditzy, goofy chick, but she actually is an amazing actress. She's extraordinarily talented. And so is Judd Nelson, is also very, very talented, as is Jonathan Breck. But there's only so much that they can do, because these are not, they're not leads the way they used to be. So they've got to, they got to make their money somehow. At least they turn in professional performances. They don't phone it in. They're still invested no matter how bad the script is. They deliver them the best they can, and they're actually the best parts of the movie, just to see them in it. Sadly, they're only in it that long, so it's kind of like whatever. And he says, maybe it's the low res, but Jennifer Tilly looks hot in this movie. She's always looked hot. I think Jennifer Tilly always looks hot. That's just, that's me. And Judd Nelson is fucking harsh. I love Judd Nelson. He's great. And ever since Breakfast Club. And then, of course, Jonathan Breck. I'm a big fan of his because he was the original Creeper. So they do what they do. They're professionals. They show up. They do their jobs correctly. And the problem is just that the material you're working with is crap. So it kind of drags them down. But yeah, ultimately, this is one of those ones you can kind of toss. There's no point in it. It's just bare bones, kind of insulting to the genre, in my personal opinion. But it did make me appreciate the actors that we love, because they come in, they do the job, they do it professionally. They don't sit there like phone that shit in and be like, oh man, this is just, even the big names are bored. Nope. They're there to be professional and they do it, and you got to respect them for it. And I love them for it. So yeah, So while I don't like the actors, I would do the other actors. I don't like the production. The production was shit, and this movie was fucking crap. Thankfully we have solid actors who still, no matter what they're in, will put forth a good performance for the fans, for their paycheck. They earn their living. So.
Well, yeah, that's what, and they call them working actors for a reason. I mean, it's not like they're getting 3 big paychecks a year. They know that the next gig's always important. So with beginning actors, they might not take it seriously. They're gonna screw around, and that hurts them. With really big name actors, if they got something like this, they're like, oh, this is garbage. I'm just gonna get through, get it done, rest on my laurels. But with working actors, your next gig is always important. So they're going to show up and they're going to do what they can with script. Script is garbage. You can only take it so far, but they're always going to put in on it to try and make sure that they keep that nice, stable set of jobs coming in. Because even if the public doesn't notice it, people behind the scene, agents, producers, casting directors, they know what happened on the last film. And you don't want that reputation.
Even like first time directors, or like kind of like those directors that come around and all they do is kind of the low budget stuff. If they get you in your project, and even those little guys, they have a voice. There's a reason they're directing movies and they're doing it, because they're all members of the DGA, they're all members of the guild, and so you get a reputation as an actor, no matter how big you were. You get a reputation as an actor who's just like doesn't give a fuck at this point, because this film's so low budget, doesn't even deserve my deal, or I'm getting paid scale for this. Fuck it, I'm not giving my all. That adds up, and people will talk. People talk in this industry, and it's a word of mouth industry, and people's careers live and die by that. So I will give them that. That was one thing. I dug that. I was kind of like, oh shit. Well, at least I'm not. I was like, oh shit. She actually kind of like, she's giving it. She's bringing it. So good for her.
Oh yeah, she always does. All right, speaking of, our question for you, who is your favorite B-movie actor or actress? You can let us know at weekinhorror@gmail.com, drop it in the comments, or let us know in the live chat. I already know who mine is, hands down.
Who's that?
It's Linnea Quigley. Like, I would say for a couple reasons. This is a joke, but she does, like, her commitment to horror movies has been unquestionable. For her entire career, she's always just down to make it the best movie she can. She's never been A-list talent, but she's always been committed.
Nice. I have to admit, I really, one of my favorites, I was thinking about this, one of my favorites is Illeana Douglas. And I don't know if anybody's, I know that people bring out like Bruce fucking Campbell. I know Bruce Campbell is amazing in there, but I was sitting there thinking about Dee Wallace is up there as well. And she's the B horror goat. Thank you, sarcasm. Dee Wallace is in B horror is the goat. And I love Dee Wallace. I especially love her because she kind of flirted with me at Texas Frightmare, which was really, really nice. Made me feel kind of special. But I will say this. I was thinking as far as B movies go, and as far as character directors go, I love Illeana Douglas. Illeana Douglas has a look and an energy that she brings, or kind of like a presence that she brings to her roles, which just gets me every time. And I love the way she approaches everything she does. I don't think she's done anything as of recent. She may be working behind the camera, but as an actress, I really, really love her stuff. And I just kept thinking of her because she's got a look that just that's mesmerizing. People remember her from Stir of Echoes. She was fantastic in that. So let me see. Pat the Batman fan says Ghost World. Fuck yeah. Hell yes. All right. So I guess I got this next one. This is an intriguing one. I've been because we don't get to spend we don't spend a whole ton of time in this area, but I'm glad we get to talk about this one because I think this one's important to address because it's one of our legends, one of our favorites. Released February 15th, 2008. We have Diary of the Dead. Let's check out this trailer.
Two news agencies are reporting accounts of the dead returning to life.
What's that?
What was that?
You can't talk about it being an epidemic. Monsters being an epidemic.
What is this about, Jason?
This turns out to be a big thing. I just want to record it.
For this sort of failure, like government agencies, support organizations.
Look. It looks hurt.
It's all burned up.
The problem doesn't seem to be that people are waking up dead. The Dead people are waking up.
It's not going down! Shoot in the head! No, please!
They're not getting the truth from anybody else. All that news is a pack of lies.
I'm dealing with this crisis. Now. You gotta know that this might be bad.
I'm trying to get home to my family, okay?
Don't bury dead. They'll shoot in head.
People start running out of food, water, gas. They're gonna start shooting at each other.
Trust somebody. What would you do? Kill us?
I think about it.
Maybe one of them got in already.
You're saying they're all dead?
Yes.
This is a hospital. There's nobody here.
This is a diary of cruelty.
Come on, before we get our asses shot off.
Can't do this anymore. Every time we walk in somewhere, somebody dies.
I'm sorry, I just read a comment in there. So, Diary of the Dead, or George A. Romero's Diary of the Dead, written and directed by George A. Romero, the legend, and starring Michelle Morgan, Josh Close, Sean Roberts, Amy Lalonde, Joe Dinicoy, Scott Wentworth, Philip Riccio, Chris Violet, and Tatiana Maslany. Yes, Tatiana Maslany from She-Hulk fame now, and of course Orphan Black. So the film in itself, it kind of goes back towards the beginning of the outbreak, and it's a found footage film that is set just kind of like a day or two after the initial beginning of the outbreak. So this technically would take place right after Night of the Living Dead and during the events and slightly after the events of Dawn of the Dead. So the film itself follows a group of filmmakers decided to do a horror film for their college project, and they are out shooting that night when the dead begin to rise and the outbreak begins. So they're out on set doing their thing, and then because they have their cameras with them, it turns into a found footage film as it follows them. And the film is a combination of both their handheld footage and, of course, security camera footage. So I have to admit, I'm a giant George Romero fan. I absolutely love Romero. And Bruno brings up, says, who would have thought the Amish guy would have been the GOAT? He absolutely was the GOAT. That was fucking crazy. But I respect George Romero. I will always respect George Romero for Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and to a degree, Land of the Dead. So this was the fifth one, and this followed Land of the Dead. And this one was far, far lower budget because Romero wanted to get back to something a little bit more hands-on, a little smaller budget, a little bit more within his control, that didn't have the scope of Land of the Dead, which was a massive effort because they kept getting bigger and bigger. Go from Day of the Dead to Dawn of the Dead to or from Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead to Land of the Dead, which took place in the building. So in this particular one, like I said, I'll always respect Romero for his examination of aspects of our culture, aspects of our society, and satirizing them with the zombie outbreak, where he takes a particular thing that we would all kind of agree is kind of a negative about it and kind of like turn it on his head and reflect it in the zombie apocalypse. The problem is that having gone 4 movies, we've got Night of the Living Dead, racism. You've got Dawn of the Dead, consumerism or capitalism. You've got Day of the Dead, the military industrial complex, and then you've got Land of the Dead, which was class warfare. And then in this one, his idea was emerging media, was in the sense that, like we are separated from the zombies, that emerging media is turning us into that kind of isolated individual, separated from everybody else by these screens, because we look at everything through screens. That's how we get our interactions, is through the internet, through social media, and that is separating us as people and dividing us. And so there is a sort of desensitization or a dissociation that we have with the people around us as far as trust goes, and accomplishing tasks that interferes with their ability to survive during the zombie apocalypse, essentially making us all into these identityless kind of automatons that are just on the screen. So similar to a zombie where it has no identity and does one single function, all we know about each other is the image we put on the screen. So he was examining that, how social media and emerging media is turning us into zombies ourselves, just parodies or just like identityless, one dimensions of who we really are. And that affects us and affects our ability to survive. It's an intriguing concept, but unfortunately, I couldn't decide if it was the found footage style, because the cinematography, even though it's Romero, I still come to have an expectation. This felt so short of what I expect. I don't know if it was the found footage or if it was the acting or something in there, but I felt that this fell short. Emerging media is interesting, but does it fit?
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, because so what he's really trying to comment on more is the YouTube generation, which it was still emerging back then. That was 07. So YouTube was out there, but still forming into what we know it is today. If he had a better grasp on what it was or where it was going, I think he would have been better off, because he shot it found footage style when really the commentary he was trying to make was more self-production style, because part of what he's trying to project is that we've become so adapted to viewing things through the lens of a camera, because people have more access to them. They have more access to publishing and everything, that it's not real to us unless it's through the camera. But on the other side, we're so jaded and cynical that when this starts, people are like, no, this is fake. But back in the day when this was audio, because they think they make commentary on they make commentary on Orson Welles, I think. And
Orson
the
Welles'
disbelief.
World,
Yeah, and it's kind of along the same lines. Well, now we've got video, but at the same time, effects had come a long way. People did stuff like that for fun. So I think it kind of hurt him that he wasn't ready, be it where society was at or where he was at, to move into the YouTube generation. But on the other hand, it's almost either meta or recursive, however you want to put it. The fact that a lot of people are going to crap on this movie because of quality. They're going to say that this is lower quality than Land of the Dead. It's shot with its handheld camera quality and all this and that. But if you think about it, compared to Night of the Living Dead, so he's gone back to an intimate cast, small number of people, smaller sets, not as grandiose. If you compare it to Night of the Living Dead, the things that people are crapping on, like the quality and everything, are light years ahead of where we were back then. You've got better video quality, better audio quality, ability to reach a greater number of people, because Night of the Living Dead spread in a very underground manner originally. It's not like it was on every cable channel right away. It was absolutely word of mouth. You've got all this, and people still aren't happy with it because of that. Now, if you want to discuss, like we're discussing, how it's portrayed, or you want to discuss acting, which I think the acting for the most part was good to great. Like the teacher, he was brilliant at that part. But to take and do it because of the quality of it's just ridiculous to me. But on the other hand, like, I think I won't say Romero hit his creative arc with Land of the Dead, because the big thing was he used a big production company and a big setup to portray something that required it. And people are going to judge it as being, some people will judge it as being one of the best films. I don't. But they're going to judge it by that just because of the amount of money that's poured into it. But at the same time, did it really hammer in its message as much as this one did? Because this one stayed pretty much on the subject the entire time. So I liked it. Do I think it's through the roof great? No, but I still think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a failure of what it's supposed to do.
I think, he has his particular style. Romero's got his style, and this is still in the vein of what he likes to do, and it's keeping with, what he wanted to keep his Living Dead series going. This is what he wants to focus on, that the zombies are a metaphor for some various thing that ails us. To me, it felt a little bit graspy. It almost felt, I can see that. It almost felt kind of, I hate to use this term. Romero was heading. He was close to the end of his life at this point when this movie came out. There was one more that this was Survival of the Dead, which was not great. Which I think was even worse than this one, because I think there is a level of diminishing returns when it comes to this. At a certain point, when you look at the time when Night of the Living Dead came out, it was 1968. Romero at the time and what he had seen, and at his age, was very, very relevant, as well as the idea through the 70s and the 80s, consumerism, capitalism, the military industrial complex. These are all very, very relevant topics at the time, because you had like, Eisenhower going out in his speech about the the military industrial complex. You had the idea that, during the Cold War, you had the idea of like what capitalism is, what consumerism is, what it does to us, what it's turning us into, the period of the 80s, the birth of the yuppie. I can see him seeing all these things from his perspective and why they needed to be looked at in this kind of vein. I get that. This one felt a little bit kind of the old guy kind of looking at today, because he's so rooted in kind of like an old, kind of like a much earlier mentality. So that's what it kind of felt like. I kept getting the reinforcements, like this kept feeling like an old guy lamenting about the youth today. Those kids today will never understand. And that kind of took me out of it. Survival of the Dead even more so, because the Survival of the Dead was so cynical that I was like, wow, he's really kind of, I felt that there's a diminishing returns there. And they really begin with Land of the Dead, although class warfare, with the rich are at the top of the building and the poor were at the bottom, and the poor are the ones who were being threatened because the zombies are at the bottom. I get that. Now I get the first four, although I felt in Land of the Dead, that's where it kind of began, because there's only so much you could say by saying, the rich suck and the poor have it the worst. We're aware of that. But how do you satirize that? Basically, that's how the rich will sacrifice the poor in order to maintain their own survival. And we get that. We absolutely do. But it's kind of like he keeps hitting us with these truths. And it was like, yeah. And so it was getting a little old because we know what to expect. So that's kind of the diminishing returns. What's he going to satirize this time? What's he going to try to bring to the forefront? And I think this one is kind of like, really kind of fell off. Not to mention Michelle Morgan, for all her effort, just really took me out of this movie, because I felt her performance was awful. There were some good ones. There were some highlights. We got R.D. Reed, who was Samuel, the deaf Amish guy, who was the fucking goat of this movie. The deaf scythe and dynamite wielding Amish dude, who was the fucking goat of this movie, who then also takes himself out with it. It was like, holy fuck. So I thought he was great. R.D. Reed. It was great to see R.D. Reed in this. He's also he was from Dawn of the Dead. He was in the remake, the Zack Snyder remake, as was what was his name? Fucking Boyd Banks. Boyd Banks was also in Dawn of the Dead, and then of course Greg Nicotero was in there as the zombie surgeon, and then Romero was the chief of police who was on TV. So we get some cool nods here and there, but overall, the quality combined, like the found footage quality, combined with the kind of get off my lawn mentality that I think Romero was exhibiting towards the end, just dropped it for me. And it's just like, damn, I wanted so bad, for this to really capture it. But ultimately, it just, I didn't feel for anybody, In Dawn, you really feel for the people in the mall. In Night, you felt for the people in the house. And you feel for the people in the bunker in Day of the Dead. And for, of course, Bub. So in that respect, it's kind of like there was something to attach there. There was nothing to attach there in this one. I couldn't feel connected to anybody because everybody's got their own fucking, kind of mentality. And those kind of, and I'm so dissociated, but maybe that was Romero's plan. Maybe that's what he was trying to reflect.
If anything, I think maybe he lost the original point, because from the very first, because Night of the Living Dead was what redefined the zombie, hands down, no question. It went from voodoo zombies to undead zombies, and it's always been that the zombies are bad, but people are a potentially worse enemy. We have always been each other's worst enemy in the best of zombies films, and that wasn't so much the case here, because even in that warehouse, bunker sort of area, the guy gives in and gives them the supplies. They wander off, and every time they come somewhere, they lose somebody. But you don't feel for them. And it's not even a matter of just they're so into what they're doing. There's very little character development done. And part of that is that, whether intentionally or not, this movie has a very jumpy style. It's segment by segment by segment, which is more modern. It's more of what you're going to see from YouTube and stuff like that. And we've seen movies do it well, and we've seen movies do it poorly. Like, you go to VHS. Yes, VHS is a past era, but at the same time, it knows how to take quick clips, stitch them together, and make them work. And this one didn't execute so well on that. So maybe I don't even know if it's so much get off my lawn. I think it's a legitimate issue, and it's a guy, older guy, that's trying to say it, and he doesn't know how to communicate it. If he had taken on, like with Carpenter, you say what you will about Halloween, but I think if Carpenter had gone his own newer Halloween films, I don't think they would have been even as good as they are. I don't know. Maybe they would, but I think Carpenter was I think he was moving on the Halloween series. So, bringing somebody in fresh that loved it to kind of work with it, to put it to bed might have been a good idea. So maybe bringing on an assistant director to work with him that was younger, or some writers that got it more, might have helped him a little bit. But just, I don't think he had the ability to get that message across at that time.
Well, one thing I'll always love him for was how much he really didn't like studio films. Romero just had a love for indie films and what you could accomplish with an indie film, and how indie films really bring the family of filmmakers together. People working, accomplishing a lot with very, very little. And of course, not having to deal with studio heads or budget things. People just kind of like breathing down your neck because it's got to be this way, meeting deadlines, do all this crap. He loved indie films. He loved working at his own pace. He loved really acquiring the shot and being able to take his time. And that was the beauty of it, is that he loved indie stuff. Now, his studio stuff was also quite good. Monkey Shines was fantastic. I loved Monkey Shines. And you can see after Land of the Dead, he very much wanted to get back to his roots, and I get it. I'll always respect him for it. It's just that after this one, of course, if you look at the movie that came after, The Survival of the Dead, which follows the group of AWOL National Guardsmen that we meet in Diary of the Dead. So it's actually, that was kind of a sequel to this one, where it just kind of follows characters that we met in that movie, and then it goes off in another branch. And that was the last one he directed before he passed in 2017. And so that one I felt was even weaker, because it goes into this idea that this is where this is like the new norm. And it really didn't examine anything, because it was a continuation of a story that already began in Diary. So that one felt just unfocused and just not really attached to what was going on. They were just kind of like, it felt like they were forcing it, unfortunately. And then fortunately, it was the last one he did before he passed. But I see Joshua Lee has got Get Off My Lawn of the Dead, right? And then Tony Regime, Afternoon of the Dead. Sarcasm says 3 o'clock Buffet of the Dead. And then, of course, Tony Regime, then the crossover film Twilight of the Dead, which is actually really, really funny, because Twilight of the Dead was supposed to be the seventh. Yeah, this was supposed to be the seventh film in the Living Dead series. So it was in the 2010s. Romero was dissatisfied with the series ending with Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead. He didn't like it, and I can understand why he didn't dig that. And he penned a treatment for Twilight of the Dead with Paolo Zolotti co-writing it with him, and depicting a full conclusion to the series that explains the fate of the zombie protagonist from Land of the Dead, and an ending where humanity has become virtually extinct. So it was very, very cynical, and would have been really, really dark. But unfortunately, Romero passed from lung cancer in 2017. So that movie has been put back into development. It's kind of in development hell as of I think 2021. But there is the film that hopefully, there's a lot of people carrying a torch for this, and hopefully we will see the conclusion of the series. Hopefully, because everybody loved Romero, and everybody wants to kind of complete his legacy. It's there, just nobody's willing to pick up the reins so far. But Tony Regime, what's funny is that it was going to be titled Twilight of the Dead, which would be an end to the whole series. Man, oh man. I so wanted to love this one. I really, really did. But, the acting, and it was wild because it wasn't the acting of everybody. The lead actress really took me out of it. She just didn't seem invested at all. And then, of course, the found footage deal where we're jumping between, security cameras and handheld cameras. And then it was so funky because all of the emotion felt forced, because we're getting kind of this in the moment, kind of oh, bring the camera up, this is going to be important. And you get no context. There's no character development or build. And we don't really give a shit about anybody because everybody just feels temporary and two-dimensional, which may have been Romero's point. He may have been. I won't discount his genius. He may have been going for that. But I honestly have no idea. So I wish it was better. He deserved better.
Yeah, it would have been better with some, I guess you call them candid shots, instead of them being characters being so aware of the camera. A few more where the cameraman's laid back, just letting them do their thing instead of their constant interaction with what he was doing. Because especially because she's so against him the entire thing. When he dies, the script flips, and all of a sudden now she's doing it, and they didn't justify it.
Yeah. So that brings us up. Given the entire scope of Romero's Dead franchise, bunch of films in there, one yet to be released, the conclusion yet to be released, Twilight of the Dead, but there were six. There were six movies in Romero's franchise. But, you know, going from Night of the Living Dead before Russo branched off and took his idea with Return of the Living Dead, and then we got Romero continuing his whole storyline. So what, in your opinion, we want to ask the audience, what do you think is the best Living Dead franchise entry? Of the six that we have, Night, Dawn, Day, Land, Diary, and Survival, what do you think is the best? What was the best? What was, I guess, the peak of Romero's storyline there? Let us know down in the comments below, or, of course, here in the live chat, or, of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of Dawn of the Dead love.
But which Dawn of the Dead? Yeah, I'm certain to choose which one.
That's true. Either the original with Ken Foree, or let's see, we got Sarcasm says Dawn of the Dead, the original. Angel Rivera says Dawn of the Dead. Travis Brown says Dawn of the Dead, 70s, the original one. Tony Regime says original Dawn of the Dead. And then Rodin Last Name says Night of the Living Dead, the original. Fantastic. Yeah, that's true. There was the Tom Savini remake in the 90s that had Tony Todd in it. So, but a lot of love for Dawn of the Dead. I get that because capitalism turning us into zombies, going after to the mall, I totally get it. I think it's something that we all identify with as Americans. It was just brilliantly done. I think in 68, the original Night, I think that people were it was a little too close to home. And that's why it was so good, but then everybody's kind of like, it kind of shined a spotlight. It's like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole. Like, that's what you are. It's like, and people are going like, oh, shit. I think it was it was a little too hard on the nose. Like, Romero's like, I'm taking a hard fucking swing. Pow! And so people were like,
the entire feel of it, too, was, I think, better than the new one for the simple fact that you're criticizing consumerism. You've got just enough of a budget to make a really good movie with the sets and the number of people you need. So you're executing that way. The newest one had a bigger budget, and you're trying to make a commentary on consumerism, but you're working with a fairly large studio, fairly large budget, which is going for a consumerist angle. And the only reason they're investing is because they know, that the direction and the production are going to hit hard. So I won't call it a sellout. I would never call the man a sellout, but I don't think it hits the point quite as hard in the same way.
Gotcha. Genova28 says, I'm partial to Night of the Living Dead. Joshua Lee says, the one where we found out that the zombies could swim, and I'm pretty sure that's Land of the Dead. I'm pretty sure it was that one. Yeah. There's so many good ones out there. I'm a big fan of Dawn of the Dead, the original 70s one. And I'm also a fan of the Zack Snyder remake before Zack Snyder, became, what he is today. But back when he was still trying. But yeah, I'm a big, huge fan of the original and, of course, the remake. I thought the remake was fucking brilliant. Everyone in that was great. Ving Rhames, Sarah Polley, everyone was Ty Burrell. Everyone was fantastic.
See, Dave's been my favorite for a long time, but the more I learn about the background of Night of the Living Dead, the era it happened and how it was developed, how it got released and everything, the more I know about that, the more I become a fan of it. So that's just, me being a movie weeb.
No, I agree. I mean, everything changed. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look, Barbara. They're coming to get you. I mean, everything changed. When that line dropped, and it was so early in the film. When that line dropped, everything was different.
I did that to my 5-year-old the other day, and she just stared at me like a deer in the headlight. It's like, who the hell is Barbara, and why are you doing that?
I always love that shot. That really do when he turns, he's like right there in the camera. He's just, they're coming to get you, Barbara.
That lighting was perfect. I don't know if that was intentional or by luck, but the fact that his glasses are obscured just enough till his eyes glaze over, till he looks like he's a pod person. Like, it's just everything about that shot just worked out right.
Fucking A.
All right, so I guess it's time to move on to the next one. So, from February 18th, 2005, we have Constantine.
And hey, Leanne Richer, accompanied by the birthday bats. Good to see you, Leanne. Thanks so much for being here. Let's check out this trailer. Have a good night, Vera.
Cold.
Sure about this?
No.
Johnny Mnemonic, sorry.
Mr. Constantine, I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know the circles you travel in, the occult, exorcisms.
Easy there, hero. That's dragon's breath. I thought you couldn't get it anymore. Oh, I know a guy who knows a guy.
I thought that you could at least point me in the right direction.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Please.
He's such a dick.
What if I told you that God and the devil made a wager for the souls of all mankind? No direct contact with humans, that would be the rule. Just influence. See who would win.
Demons stay in hell. Angels in heaven.
They call it the balance.
I need to see what you see.
You do this, there's no turning back. You see them. They see you. Understand?
I command thee. Into the light I command
Hell yeah, he's on there far too short a period of time.
Go to hell.
All right, I'm just the cast on this. Well, first let's get directors and writers out of the way. So it's directed by Francis Lawrence, based on the comic book Hellblazer by Jamie Delano, Garth Ennis, and the story and screenplay by Kevin Broadbent. The cast list on this is crazy, so I'm gonna hit the best of along the way. You got Peter Stormare, the amazing Peter Stormare, Tilda Swinton, Gavin Rossdale, Pruitt Taylor Vince, Max Baker, Shia LaBeouf, Jimon Honsu, Rachel Weisz, and Keanu Reeves. Oh God, do I even got to explain what this is about? Basically, a demon-killing detective has to foil a plot to bring Satan's son to Earth, and nearly gets laid along the way.
So I think so this was the big deal on this one. Constantine is I think is one of the more underrated of Keanu Reeves' performances. I love the absolute film. And someone brings up something very important. Angel Rivera brings up a very important point. And hey, Fangirl98, good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Angel Rivera says, I like this movie a lot, but having read the comics from where it was adapted, I saw what they had to sacrifice to make the movie for the masses. And they did. They did have to sacrifice a lot. But that happens sometimes. It's one of those things you kind of accept when you're getting an adaptation, especially from comics, from a running comic series. There's only so much you can fit into a first film. That's why I absolutely loved Keanu Reeves' dedication to the character and conveying it honestly. And they were able to grab some major characters, Jimon Honsu's Papa Midnight, and of course the other various characters. Gabriel played brilliantly by Tilda Swinton, and Peter Stormare, who was one of the best Lucifers I've seen. I thought he ran with that. So everybody in this is firing on all cylinders. The writing was smart and capable, gave us everything we needed just to follow along, and invited people to go check out the comics as well, so they could get all the kind of like little Easter eggs, all the details, like the extended stories on Father Hennessy and Beeman and other people, and of course the Easter eggs of all the characters that are wandering around that we only briefly see. Like, oh, he's in the comics. And so there's all that stuff littered throughout this. It was an absolutely amazing adaptation. This is textbook how you do an adaptation. You focus on all of the parts that work, and you trim what you don't technically need, and then you cast that fucker out the ass. And this was brilliant casting from Keanu all the way across. I'm not going to say all the way down. Keanu, Rachel Weisz, Damon, Peter, Shia. I'm not even a Shia LaBeouf fan, and at least he brought it as Chaz. He did his deal, which was good. And so I got to say, Casey Cooper says, I think the average person doesn't understand the way a screenplay works time-wise. Agreed. There's a big leap there. I mean, there's a gap where, writing for comics so different than writing for films. And so trying to adapt that is very, very difficult. But they knocked it out of the fucking park.
Yeah, see, I've read some of the Hellblazer comics. I need to read more. I've actually got a digital bundle that I bought a while back. I need to dig into. There are significant modifications, but most of it's done for time. Like, the prime example is why he is going to hell. Because in this one, it's because he killed himself. Whereas in the comics, it's because he got someone else sent to hell, being arrogant, and that's his sentence. We have the pleasure of just saying that. But in movies, it's show, don't say. So you're taking a quarter and a half of a movie to properly portray that. So they've got to trim that off. They got to trim this off. And it happens all over the place. Now you can leave it standing. And we've seen that happen in the 80s when they did comic book adaptations. It played well to minor comic book audiences. It didn't pay its budget half the time. I mean, they're the ones that got released by like Viacom back before they went big as a, cable network host. So this one, it was smart enough to go through. It trimmed what it had to and kind of wrapped that up, explained it different ways and everything. And it changed who Constantine was. I agree. Like the show, I used to watch it every Saturday because that's when it came over to streaming on Hulu. And the week they canceled it, I nearly threw my coffee mug through the TV. I love that version of Constantine, but it took time to develop that. It takes episodes, and they still didn't fully flesh him out. They ended up rolling him over into another series that what is it? I can't remember the name of it. It's another DC series, and then he voices him in all of their cartoon adaptations because their cartoon library is great and stuff. So they did what they could in the amount of time they had, and they put quality into it. It's a solid standalone. If you wanna complain about this, go back and find The Punisher starring Dolph Lundgren, because I know people have some hate for the new Punisher or the newer Punisher movie, Thomas Jane, but the 80s one with Dolph Lundgren, it's like, this is supposed to be a comic book? Who is that?
They weren't fucking around. They were not. To give them that. I did like, I know that the CW brought in Constantine. They did. I always felt it was very much kind of like the kids version, because this was a Vertigo Comics. This was the DC imprint for Vertigo Comics, which handles all of their heavy duty shit, all of their adult stuff. And so that's why like Vertigo has Preacher as well by Garth Ennis, and that series pulls no fucking punches whatsoever. The original Hellblazer did not either. So it's kind of this is kind of a loose adaptation. We can say kind of an Elseworlds adaptation of John Constantine. And I love that people people recognize that. It wasn't like you adapted it and you've ruined it. He's like, no, this is kind of like an Elseworlds version. Like, some things are the same, but we're changing up some stuff, and we can characterize that. I love that Keanu was dedicated enough to it, and everybody, brought it. I always thought I did dig in the television series the kind of, when they crossed over Constantine with Lucifer and did that whole kind of thing, because of the Lucifer series. Because also, but Lucifer, that character being a Neil Gaiman creation for his franchise from the Sandman works that he did. So I really, really enjoyed the how they played in the universe was very, very smart. It really, really was. And I think, and I got to say this straight up. Extra J is good to see you. Extra J says, I'm watching the conversation scene with Constantine and Lucifer right now on the other screen. Badass. It's fucking amazing. So you thought Matt Ryan as Constantine was kid friendly. So Constantine on the CW, I thought did not. It was all the parts you need to make a Constantine, but not all of the grit to make Constantine. Because it comes down to it, he's an exorcist and he's a con artist and he's a fucking misanthrope. Constantine may be kind of bon vivant in that aspect, but he's not a social person. He's very antisocial in a lot of his shit. He masks that, the whole kind of darkness of what he does. It's very, very similar to Farscape, where Ben's character in that, with the character in that, Ben, I think it was that, I can't remember his name, Ben Browder, with that character, the character of Krychek, essentially what he does, or Crichton, with the character of Crichton, masks the insanity of what he's doing, what would drive a normal person mad, with his comedy. John Constantine does the exact same thing. So the darkness that was living behind that shit wasn't really there in the CW stuff, because that really detracts. That's why the same stuff in Lucifer, the meditative broodingness of Gaiman's Lucifer, was not there in the Lucifer series. It went in some directions, but we didn't. There's a kind of nuance that comes with that level of graphic artistry that I don't think you can replicate, or do you choose not to replicate it? I'm not sure. And absolutely, you're welcome for the Farscape analogy. I've always loved that writing technique. A person in a situation so insane that they mask it with comedy so they don't go crazy, or they mask it with something else, and that's exactly what I see the CW version doing. Now, I love that Keanu did this, because this, at the time that he did this back in 2005, this was kind of, other than The Watcher, where he played a serial killer, but even then, we didn't really see some extreme serial killery stuff, We didn't see that. So this was kind of, as we realized, Keanu wasn't a dick. I went back and watching this. Keanu was a fucking dick in this movie. He was an asshole, which I thought was great. His actions with Rachel Weisz before he opens up to her. But he's typically just like this dick. He's a dick to Chaz. He's a dick to Gabriel. He's a dick to everybody, until he finally warms up and opens up and realizes he has something big going on. Eugene is finally here. Good to see you, bud.
Hey, what's up? Did I miss all the bad movies? Did I miss all the bad movies so far?
We only had one really bad movie.
That was a really bad movie.
That was a really, really bad movie.
Yeah, that was.
So Javer says CW is definitely watered down. It absolutely is. But I want to say this. Yeah. I will defend this, and I'm kind of bummed that Johnny is not around, because Johnny can't stand Keanu. He blames whenever he sees Keanu, all he sees is Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's all he sees. Nothing will ever salvage Keanu Reeves for him. Not even Bill and Ted will salvage him. I think this is a magnificent performance on his part. I loved him in this role, and I think it's one of his most underrated, in my opinion. I will defend it. I will defend it all day long.
So, talking about CW and the kids version, basically CW was the kind that the parents would see the teen watching it and approve it. Whereas with a comic, parents don't know what's going on there, so you're free to play a little more. So they kind of brought it down to that level. But the interesting thing to me is, so in the comics, there is a wider universe, and they understood that there wasn't this, so they lean more in the direction of occult rather than satanic movies. The occult tends to delve into more beings, a bigger, not necessarily pantheon, but a greater number of individuals he deals with who are demonic, et cetera, et cetera. It's not as far as Doctor Strange, but it leans a little more in that direction. Whereas this one, they wrapped it up nicely towards a more satanic angle, something you would see, like in The Omen, kind of like, obviously not the visual depiction of demons, but you can wrap up who's who they serve, what they're doing. There's nothing that you're going to leave strings hanging on. And they thin down the timeline till with, the show and the comics, there's a wider lifeline expected on Constantine. His death is not imminent. In this one, they needed to make his death imminent, and he's pissed because of that, and that's who he is. I mean, he is a person who is coming towards death and is not handling it well. In the show, you're talking about, Crichton dealing with sanity. It's just a person that doesn't let you close, and they use humor to deflect it. Whereas his Constantine is more of a person who's just not going to let you close by being a jerk. I mean, simple as that. And Keanu has always done better with understated parts. He's not as wide an actor as a lot of other people, but when he's in the right part, he does a good job. And I think he did on this. I mean, we joked about Johnny Mnemonic and stuff, and the fit that he has in that about not having a warm room and a hooker. is prime example of why you don't send Keanu in the direction you do others, where they're being bombastic and huge and stuff. And realistically, like, he's not going to do well with it, because this is a guy that just doesn't let stuff phase him. If you know about Keanu's history, I mean, he and his wife, they lost their child soon after birth. They separated, and then she died. He's gone through a lot, and he has remained a very good person. Like, I can't remember which movie it was. I have to look it up, where he gave the entire crew, because of all the work they put in, he gave them all motorcycles.
Oh,
Like,
that was
that's
that was Matrix Reloaded.
was it?
Yeah.
He because he's a big motorcycle guy, and he's the person who does that. He helps people out. He's great. Everybody says he's kind and everything. So he's not easily shaken. So he's not going to play a character that's easily shaken well, which, you know, as far as his personal life, I gotta say amen and more to him, because you've got actors out there who have a wider variety. You got Daniel Day-Lewis who can play anything. But God, don't ask that man for an autograph, because you're gonna lose your fucking hand.
I will say that was footage of Keanu Reeves that he was helping them to load onto the set for John Wick. You know, carrying fucking cases up those damn stairs. Like, yeah, these guys need a hand, man. He's willing to get dirty. That's really the greatness in it. I love that it's both a part of his roles and it's just who he is. And I dig that when he's in that zone, it just works so well for him. So, you know, I love it. That's why I loved him in this, because just, you know, it's just him, but more cynical. It's like if this was a cynical version of Keanu Reeves, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is exactly, and he, in terms of playing subdued roles, he's kind of like the opposite of Nick Cage. Like, Nick Cage has to go extreme, for it to work. Like, Nick Cage can't do
rage.
Yeah, he must cage rage, where Keanu is the opposite. Keanu needs that close, that reserve. That's why he works so good in, like, John Wick, because John Wick is a character that has seen it all. He's done it all. Nothing surprises him anymore. And he's just he's a ruthless killer that you can work for. And the beauty part about it is that he's somebody who you can also root for in real life. He's just one of those guys you just want to see him do well, and it makes you excited about the next John Wick movie, about the next Constantine movie, about the next, I don't care if it's John Wick 32 that's coming out. I'm still going to see it in theaters. It could be a piece of crap, but I'm going to see it to support Keanu. Exactly.
Yeah, I don't get in a gunfight with that guy. If you see the background gun drills he did for John Wick and the target practice and stuff, it's like, I don't know, he might be able to take a SWAT team.
I think he probably could. Him and Halle Berry, both of them, because I saw videos of the two of them running drills together, but they're both unstoppable. So,
damn.
He's, Halle Berry got gross for those, but I love what he brings to it. I love his dedication, and plus Keanu, I think has a great like Nick Cage has a great appreciation for all mediums, for all art mediums, including comics and the story tale, especially graphic novels. And I think that because he has that appreciation, that's why he brought so much love to the character and was so dedicated to it. And we never got a moment where it was phoned in. Whereas his arc moves through, and I love that, because this goes to show the talent of this man was the arc in which he played it from the very, very beginning, where he's this cynical dude who's cut off. He's literally on the verge, probably 6 months to a year left to live. He's quickly dying, and he's not going to stop what he's doing. He's going to keep trying to go. He's going to keep trying to get in, even though he's constantly told this is not the way it works, until all the way to the very, very end when it's all done. There's no way out of this, and you can see his character evolve and change in such a short time. By working with Angela and moving on to the moment when he has this back and forth with the fucking devil himself. And everybody's like, yeah, it's all good. He was like, yeah, I'm done. I loved his arc. It was so sublime as he naturally evolved through that. Encompassing the Constantine of old. There's all these comments, this commentary that everyone is past their prime. This was all the adventures are like, we're much older now. Damon Husseau, they used to be like warriors for good, and now everyone's kind of like chill. It's kind of the end of the road, but no, it's not. And I loved that his character went through that arc so beautifully and so naturally, and leading to this great climax with him and Peter Stormare, who I think doesn't get enough credit. We will, as being his film buffs, we will say Peter Stormare gets a lot of credit for this, but his fucking Lucifer was fan-fucking-tastic. Oh, I loved him and Tilda Swinton playing off each other were just great.
And I also like to say, I love the scene where Rachel Weisz gets sucked out the building.
Yeah.
That's such an, I remember that in the trailer where they're having a conversation and all of a sudden you see the elevator door pull behind her and then she just gets sucked out. Like, that had me hooked when that came out.
Well, and they were smart about the execution on it too, because if you pay attention, she's not smashing through the walls. Because if you smash a human through a wall, it's going to mess them up.
Right.
The walls collapse before she gets to it, and she passes through. And I'm like, I love little attention to detail where they think about that, because all of these movies where they get superheroes that can like pick up, or they can grab, like somebody throws a tank and they grab the tank and they're in the same place. I'm like, I understand you're strong, but momentum is a real thing, and you only weigh 180, 200 pounds. That damn tank's taking you with it.
Physics.
It was The Boys and Invincible that have really brought stuff like that into play. So that's what I dig with kind of like this new understanding of superheroes in that respect. How in The Boys it was very much Homelander couldn't save the plane. It's like, can't you just fly up underneath the carry the plane? Do you have any idea what the momentum of this friggin' 747 is? If I try to grab the nose and try to pick it up, you have any idea what the fuselage is going to do? All these people are dead. There's nothing that we can do. It's over. It's like, it's not this Superman thing anymore. It's like, yeah, I've got the whole thing. It's like, no, dude, that's not the way physics works. Same with Invincible. When he was trying to save the woman pull the woman out of the war zone, and the sheer velocity of him trying to save her wound up tearing her apart. So it's brutal. It's some brutal shit that the comics kind of ignored for a long time, because we need heroes. We need heroes to believe in. It's like, but the reality of it is, yeah, this is pretty hardcore. So Josh really says Lucifer dragging Constantine across the floor was great. Yes. When he's trying to drag him in, the floor starts going. It was like, I thought it was brilliant. Great stuff.
Yeah, and they redeemed him, but they didn't over redeem him, because at the end they could have gone with, all of a sudden he has this romance with her where he's opened up and everything, and that's not how it works. It takes time. Same thing. He's not this bright and shining great person because he's got a second chance at life. He's still quiet. He's still reserved. He's not as crabby and everything, but it's not this miraculous, despite it actually being a miracle. Humans are humans. It's not this miraculous, swift redemption arc.
Fangirl, good to see you. Thanks for this. Thank you for the rewatch. I hope you have a good night. Appreciate you coming by. Sarcasm brings up so much good CGI. Was used very refreshing to see it used properly. Right. They used the CGI where they needed the CGI, like the full-fledged demon. The little bitches like the eye glow, the understated eye glows of characters like Gavin Rossdale and Tilda Swinton. And barely any with Peter Stormare. The broken glass, just little pieces that they needed just to sell a moment. It was not an over-reliance, which I thought was brilliant. And then, of course, Gavin Rossdale. Holy shit. This was the first movie I ever watched that had him in it. I was like, damn, this fucker can act.
Like, all right.
I was like, fuck, not only can he act, he can be intimidating. I was like, this is some dark shit. And so like I said, beautifully cast across the board. One of the best Keanu Reeves films. It was so good. So
yeah, when they when an actor manages to just piss you off to your core, but you still know that, like, outside of that they're a good person, but you hate the character they play, that is a sign of a really good actor.
Yes.
I was thinking Gavin Rossdale. This is the dude who's married to Gwen Stefani, who's like the lead singer of Bush, the guy who single-handedly saved the first day of what was it? Woodstock, of the new Woodstock back in the 90s. It was like, if he hadn't come out, the place would have torn themselves apart. And it's like, this guy's like pure, just like, he's like Keanu. He's just like pure Zen. And then he comes out and he's fucking Balthazar, this demon. I was like, holy shit. He was great and kind of freaky. So
yeah, it's almost like everything is Zen.
Nicely done. So I've seen some people mention it in the live chat, and we definitely want to ask the audience. So it has been rumored, given Keanu's success with John Wick, and it kind of like, and of course, if you haven't seen it, the third Bill and Ted movie is definitely worth your time. If you are a Bill and Ted fan, go Bill and Ted Face the Music. Go away. It's very cute. It's such a cute little film. And I thought I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to age well with me. It's like, fuck no. It was good. I enjoyed it. So I didn't expect myself to. It was a nice surprise. So given, Keanu Reeves and how well he's doing and just how amazing of a person he is, it has been rumored that Constantine 2 is a definite possibility in the future. The question is, but the first one came out in 2005. It is now 2023. We're coming up on and of course, to produce a movie like Constantine 2 with today's budgetary standards and the effect standards, we may not be looking at a Constantine 2 until maybe 2024, possibly 2025, 20 years after the last one, after the first film. So the question is, given the length of time, given Keanu, do we want to see a Constantine 2? Is that a yes or a no on a sequel to this movie? Is he too old? Is he not too old? Can he knock it out of the park? I know he's still doing John Wick, and I think he's slated for another 2 more Wick movies. So,
I mean, the thing is this, a good movie is a good movie. I think Top Gun Maverick, Terminator 2, Aliens, those are all sequels that came out years upon years after the originals, and they all knocked it out of the park.
You just got to be smart enough to make it its own thing, because the ones you just named were different. Alien and Aliens, the difference between them. The first one is more existential horror, real subtle creeping. The second is more action horror. You got to try to make something. Where you fail is when you try to take and make a sequel or a remake that's the original thing. I think Ghostbusters, the newer one, it wasn't terrible. I'm speaking about the one with the female cast. It wasn't terrible. It was an okay movie. But the thing that hurt it was trying to be the first one. And you cannot create the magic of the era that released it. And you shouldn't try, because it's going to kill you every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me see here. Wow, a lot of love. So Sir Captain says, yes, more. And Annie says, sweet. Travis Brown says, if they can do it right in the second film, then yes. Angel Rivera says, yes. And Annie's yes. Josh Lee says, yes. Casey Cooper says, yeah. Leanne Richard, accompanied by the birthday bat, says, no. But then turned around and said, I'll vote yes, but just for you guys. Denova28 says, yes. And Action J says, oh, he's good for it. He's good for it.
John Wickstentine.
I want to point out, because we always ask questions like, should there be a sequel? Should there be a sequel? I think this is the first one where it's been an overwhelming yes, because most of the time it's no. Even on good films, it's like no.
More often than not. But I think both of these, because Dead Snow, we talked about Dead Snow 2, which I'm sorry, because I would have your take on Dead Snow 2, I think would have been amazing. But should there be a Dead Snow 3? Should we get Dead Snow 3 with Zombie Hitler and the conclusion to Tommy Wirkola's trilogy?
You know what? I would watch it.
You'd watch it.
Yeah, 100%.
And he says, what? The all-woman Ghostbusters was shit!
I wouldn't go that far. I've seen... I mean, I was made to watch witchcraft. When you plumb to the depths of the barrel and find out when you finally touch bottom, you begin to reevaluate your standards of what shit.
What if that's true?
I might give that a wet fart rating at worst.
Leanne Richard says there should be at least 15 Dead Snow films. Dead Snow was pretty damn amazing. Casey Cooper said, never saw the Dresden Files TV show. Somehow missed it. Read all the books and I could picture. The Dresden Files is amazing. I love it. And he says, bleh.
I actually met the actor who played Bob in person out in public. He was working security for a mall. And I'm just, doing my routine, walking around, slow night, and up walks this guy. And he asked for directions to an area near here. And I paused and I'm like, this is him. This is Bob. Because it took a second because he'd grown a thick beard. And I'm like, this is Bob. And I didn't have the balls to be like, you're Bob. Holy shit. But it turned out he was teaching at a college near here. He did a semester of teaching, and that was him. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Him and Macaulay Culkin. I met Macaulay Culkin, ran into him in person when he was filming Richie Rich, and just didn't have the balls to just be like, it's you.
I ran the same thing. Very similar. It was Nick Stahl. Nick Stahl, when I was back in Texas, and I was working. I was like literally at my job when I was working for that convenience store chain, and fucking Nick Stahl walked in one day, just out of the blue, just nonchalant, just kind of walked in wearing, just white t-shirt. Now that was like, holy shit. Now he has family in Texas. He has family in North Texas, which is why he was there. He just happened to pop in the store that I was working at. So he walked in and I was like, oh shit, that's fucking Nick Stahl. Damn.
Yeah,
he's coming this way. And as he was walking by, I just looked up, hey Nick, and just went back to work. And he was just like, hey. And then just
it's so damn surreal. You don't know what to do with it. You're like, is this happening? What the hell?
They're people too.
They exist in the same world I do.
They do. Now, Casey Cooper says, picture Reeves as Dresden from the Dresden Files. I could see that it would be a hell of a lot better than fucking Stuart Townsend as fucking Kolchak, who Darren McGavin will always be Kolchak for me, and a hell of a lot fucking better than Brandon Routh as fucking Dylan Dog. So I think Reeves would actually do pretty good as Harry Dresden. I do. And Denova28 says, how many witchcraft films was it? How many witchcraft films was it, Aaron?
Too goddamn many. What was it, 16? I only had to deal with 4 of them.
Actually, I think it was like, it was 18, wasn't it? It was like 16. No.
Was it?
It doesn't matter. Does not matter. Just no.
Leon Richards says, best use of intestines in any film, Dead Snow. Fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I'm evaluating and I'm like, how long could an intestine stand up to a flow of gasoline? Like,
dude, that's why you need to watch the first movie. You've got to watch the first movie, and really, I'm just gonna lay it there. Joshua Lee says, but JL, were you supposed to be there that day? Unfortunately, I was supposed to be there that day. I was scheduled to work that day, which is kind of cool because I happened to see Nick. Now, I've met Nick in the past. He had affiliations with the school that I went to with KD Studio, and I graduated from KD, but he was there as a child actor because he came up in the business. I know he had some personal stuff, but I know he's worked through it. He's doing really, really good these days. I'm glad to see him working steadily again. But he, because he's got family in North Texas, and I think this is where his daughter lives. He just happened to be passing by, and he just popped into the convenience store to grab himself a quick energy drink, and then just bugged out. I was like, oh shit, fucking Nick Stahl. So it's like, damn, I was impressed. Sir Captain said all of them. Yes, there was far too many, absolutely too many. And Rodinella Sam said, I got to buy Quentin Tarantino a shot at the bar I was in. Very cool.
Nice.
That's awesome. We ran into when we were at Texas Frightmare Weekend, Kane Hodder was at a table that was near us before they moved into an area that was a little bit more private when we were at the restaurant. And then, of course, Tony Todd swung through the bar as well. So that was a Texas Frightmare. Texas Frightmare, you get a chance to kind of run into people. It was pretty cool. But yeah, hopefully Constantine 2. Is that a yes or no from you guys?
Oh yeah, I'll watch it.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, there were 16 witchcraft films. The reason I remember that is because 16? the ask was to watch the first one and the last 3. And I remember that they should have stopped at Witchcraft 13, 1, because 13, unlucky number, would have been appropriate. And 2, I wouldn't have to watch this shitty last trilogy that they threw together
because 14,
all at the same
16,
time.
14, 15, and 16 were all shot simultaneously. They were all shot back to back because they were a kind of a closing a trilogy on that. Yeah. And Andy says, I saw Feruza Balk. And Andy says, I saw Feruza Balk at a Cottonmouth Kings concert like 22 years ago. That's fucking awesome.
I can totally picture her at a concert like that.
I could see her at a concert like that. Hell yeah. All right, everybody. Well, it is about that time. See a lot of love for Constantine 2 out there. Hopefully we will get it. Absolutely. But you know what time it is? What time is it?
It's trivia time.
Yeah, we got to love Alex for giving that to us. All right. Tonight's trivia question. Eugene will be giving it. And, of course, if you are the first correct answer in the live chat for tonight's trivia question, you will win a mystery prize from the Week in Horror store. So flex those Google fingers and get ready to go. Eugene, just in time to give the trivia question. Lay it on him.
All right. The trivia question is, what legendary author created the character of John Constantine? What legendary author created the character of John Constantine?
This is what separates the fans from the Google fingers here. I've got the live chat up.
Yeah, because I already bet you right now somebody already knows it. First one to comment below in the live chat wins the prize. Boom! Got it.
Angel Rivera.
Angel Rivera.
Angel Rivera. He got in like a second before Roden No Last Name.
Before Roden No Last Name. Yeah. Oh, wow. There's a lot of people that knew that. Oh, hell yeah. Jay Verse says, I was literally just looking at that. But Angel Rivera, correct. The answer is Alan Moore. So John Constantine was a character that was created by a team, but predominantly Alan Moore, but also with the assistance of Stephen Bissett, Rick Veitch, and John Totalben. But predominantly it came from the mind of Alan Moore and first appeared in Swamp Thing number 37 was where John Constantine first showed up. But yes, Hellblazer, the badass warlock, John Constantine was a creation of Alan Moore, the mind behind Watchmen, From Hell, and of course, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which was an awesome Superman story. I love Alan Moore's work. So congratulations, Angel Rivera. Let me get that down. And we will get this printed out and shipped to you ASAP. Congratulations. And before we jump to the plugs tonight, to the closing plugs, a big, huge announcement, something very, very cool that we just started over at the Week in Horror Discord. The link for that is in the description. But of course, our big supporter and follower, Rodent No Last Name, Gabba Gabba to you, sir, is helping us out by bringing the Sunday Monster Vault. So every Sunday night, we'll get a chance to sit down and watch some movies over in the Week in Horror Theater on the Discord channel. Some old school stuff, old school monster films, all the way back to the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, all the cool black and white stuff that we never sit down and watch. But we will be doing the old school, the Sunday Monster Vault over at the Week in Horror Discord. Look for those announcements when you jump over there and join us, where you can hang out with us, hang out with the guys here, the crew here, watch movies with us, and do all kinds of cool things. This is where we announce everything about the show. So, but yeah, look for that. The Sunday Monster Vault this upcoming Sunday, where I think he's announced in the Discord what we're going to watch. But look forward to those. It's going to be a blast.
Oh, I'm having a computer error here. Give me 1 second. Like my mouse just went. There we go.
I think he's talking to you. You want me to take it?
No, I got it just barely. Yeah, like we were facing full blown, like calling the National Guard there for a second. All right. And that will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you so much for joining us, and we truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we look back at Wes Craven's superhero adaptation of Swamp Thing, the supernatural slasher Dead Mary, the 12th entry in the Amityville franchise, Amityville Death House, and the 80s Creep Fest 1 Dark Night. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on all the socials for the Daily Splatter, your daily horror film recommendation. Remember, we're constantly being stalked by that cruelest of faceless slashers algorithm, and you can help us defeat it by dropping a comment, liking, subscribing, and smashing that notification bell like a true third act final girl. Joshua Olsen does all of our amazing artwork for the show, and his designs are incredible. Hit up his store at www.badsamurai.store. A massive shout out to all of our amazing patrons who continue to help us make Week in Horror the incredible success it has become. And if you would like and are able to support our production, you can too by joining and enjoying the tasty benefits of one of our many Patreon tiers. But if Patreon is not your favorite salty method, you can always support us directly through our PayPal. Links to everything, including our Discord community where you can hang out with us, are in the description below. And remember, the goal is global horror domination, and we can't do it without you, our amazing audience. So pretty please, with the hopes and dreams of indie horror lovers everywhere on top, go share the absolute fuck out of our little show. Thank you all for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm Aaron.
I'm JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We'll see you next week. And as always, stay scared.